Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Coffee with Coaches podcast. I'm your host, Kevin, and as you can tell from my voice, I've been having a delightful conversation already with Kirby Ingles. Kirby is a leadership coach, combat veteran, and hosts the True Success podcast. His family-oriented, father of 5, faith-based, values-driven approach shows up in his life's work and mission to root out fatherlessness in America. I don't have anything else to say. Welcome to the podcast. Let's talk all about that. There's so much more to you. I've looked at your LinkedIn bio. You are an incredible coach and human being. I'm so grateful to be able to talk to you today.
No, that's awesome. I appreciate that. Thanks for the introduction. And I'd love to have a deeper conversation about the mission that I'm on and what I'm trying to achieve. So,
well, let's hurry up and get there. But let's start at the start. How did you find yourself becoming a coach? When did you maybe discover that you were a coach? And then how did you found your coaching business? And who were you trying to serve when you did that? I love these superhero origin stories. So tell us yours.
Yeah, it kind of felt, I was already in that superhero status when I found it. I was serving in an organization in the United States Army called the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, which is the escort to the President of the United States, or also called the Old Guard. One of the oldest active infantry regiments, in the military, and their role is to be the escort to the President of the United States in many capacities, and also, serve as arrival ceremonies for foreign dignitaries, and pay respects to those soldiers who are being placed in the ground at Arlington Cemetery, bringing them home. It's a huge mission. Plus, one of the other things we do is we're to demonstrate our power, precision, and expertise, not only in drill and ceremony. And so when you see those folks, with the flags at the Super Bowl ceremony, those soldiers, that's generally those guys. But it's a huge organization, and I got to serve on that. And one of the former senior enlisted men for the United States Army, Sergeant Major of the Army, Jack Tilley, had been visiting, started a consulting company, came to visit, was talking about education and retirement and transition. One of the things he said is, don't allow your identity to be wrapped up in the Army. Eventually, one day, your term of service is going to expire, whether it's 4 years, 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years. It's going to expire. And it's not because we don't love you. It's not because we don't want you anymore. It's just, it's time, right? Everybody has to go through that process. And so he said, the first day that you join the Army should be the day that you think about what you're going to do when you leave the Army. And so every decision you make after that in your career should be geared towards your next life in the afternoon. And so I was thinking about that, and I'm like, man, that was so smart, and he talked about networking and maintaining relationships. And I was sitting in a position where I was a senior advisor, and I had just been, doing HR for about 15 years. And that was my trade and my skill set. So I was like, okay, what do I love about HR? Because I really just don't want to do HR anymore. I don't want to start over when I leave. I want to do something different. And I really love the customer focus, right? I didn't really care too much for policy and meetings and all these other things I was having to do. And I was far removed from that one-on-one customer service. And so I was like, okay, there's that. What do I love about the job that I'm in now? And it was the personal and career development of young soldiers in the military, helping them along through their career, helping them find a path and growth and things of that nature. And I was also fascinated with positive psychology because I had just been recently trained as a master resilient trainer. And so I was kind of like trying to triangulate all these different things that I loved and not do some of the things I didn't love. And I thought I was going to be a counselor, right? So I started at Liberty University as a human services counseling, but I ran across this life coaching track. And I was like, okay, let me pursue this, see what this is all about. So I took the first one, and then I took advanced life coaching, and then I took leadership coaching, and then health and wellness coaching. And then that's when the business started. So I found my love just through some timely advice. And then I began my business while I was on active duty in the Army, and I ran my business for about 6, 7, 8 years before I retired. So I was basically a soldier during the day, father and husband in the afternoon, and then third shift entrepreneur in the evening. So
oh, that's awesome. I love that. Like the ingredients are always they're so similar across all different coaches, but the way that they're applied, it's always so very unique. And I love the uniqueness of those journeys, because it's honestly like you have these values, this core identity of service and giving back, and just
Yeah.
and just like all these different attributes. And then like I like timely advice. Usually there's like one or two people or maybe a small handful. They tell you the right thing at just the right moment, where it's like
Yeah.
they put that idea in your head, like, what about this? How about that?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden this whole avenue opens up for you. I love the way everything came together for you. And obviously you sum up a lot of years in a very short span. And it's like, it's something that I love people seeing that in coaches in particular, in that, like, obviously it's a great story now because you lived it. And so you can tell it, you can condense it down into like, 5 or 10 minutes of like, this is what happened. But then it's nice to remind people that, this took a while. It'll take a while for you too. It's a long journey. It's so worthwhile. There are rewards at every step of the way. And you get to have a great story. When the time comes, you'll have your 5 minutes.
Oh yeah. I was just telling a client that yesterday, because they were having some struggles with someone that was working for them that had zero clarity. And I'm like, they're in their 20s. They're not going to have it figured out. They're about to get married. They got some big moving pieces in front of them right now. Of course, they're not clear, and they're not clear about which direction in their career they want to go. It's a process. Take time, go slow. Don't force them to make any big decisions yet. Just do little sprints and let them explore and try some things out, and they'll figure out what they're passionate about. So
I love that. It's always, for me, throughout my life, it's been a competing sets of advice where it's like, don't take your time, do it right. Things are going to come. Like, you don't have to rush, but also don't wait. Don't just sit on your hands and do nothing. It's like, be engaged in that forward journey, but also calm down, take your time. These are big things that are happening. It's like, and I think I had to learn that lesson the hard way a few times. I think we all do.
Yeah, we sure do.
I'm sorry if you heard any, there's the timing on the leaf blower is always pristine whenever I'm recording a podcast. I got some noise canceling stuff on, but if you hear any machines just outside my door, he's just passing right by.
It happens.
It's amazing, the podcasting these days, or just working from home, how much we've transitioned and just kind of tried to get used to all the different things. It's been so grateful to be with my family more during this time, and still working and still engaging, like you're kind of talking about, like still moving forward, but also making sure I'm taking my time and putting what I value the highest first. But we'll get to that. Let's talk. Let's talk about your business now. And I've been kind of workshopping how to phrase this question, and it kind of comes down to this: who do you coach and how do you coach them? So like, who's your basically like your base clientele, and that could be a pretty broad spectrum of different people in professional or personal lives. But also, like, do you focus on one-to-one? Do you have a lot of like group coaching that you do, maybe small, medium? Do you have like keynote kind of speech level coaching? All of the above. And I feel like that's a good way to kind of get into. So who do you coach and how do you coach them?
Yeah. So, it primarily is focused on the corporate world. And I spend most of my time with first-time managers, first-line supervisors, managers of managers, and some independent contributors for the most part. It would kind of sum it up. And most of these people, some of them have been in organizations within the Fortune 100, some within the Fortune 500. None of that really matters for me. It's usually that mid-careers, right? And most of it, my coaching has been career management or the development of others in leadership primarily. So it'd be leadership and career management. And it's all one-to-one. I don't do any other group coaching. So I really do love one-on-ones more than I do group coaching. I've been in some masterminds and group coaching myself, and I didn't enjoy it as much. So I prefer the one-on-ones, and that's where I kind of love that. But yeah, so that's primarily where it's at. And we cover I call it core coaching. We cover a variety of topics. Some folks come along and they just need help. They're trying to do the work-life balance. They've got young children or just had a newborn child, working from home, trying to, transition from wife being on maternity leave to them being on paternity leave. They just got a new job, so there's quite a few things that, are occurring or going on. Plus they're trying to think about, okay, how do I manage this new team that I just got, and then, develop myself as in the same token. And so it's really layered, right? It's very complex. And so I spend time just working with people with where they're at and what they're bringing to the table that day. It could be I'm getting ready to retire and I want to build a succession plan, before I retire in 2 years. And so we focused on that. And what am I going to do after retirement? How am I investing my time? I have some concerns because, family has dementia or something like that, and I want to stay active and I want to get involved in things, And so sometimes people come to me because they see how passionate I am about, solving the fatherless problem. And they're like, well, I have some things I care about. So how do I get involved in that? How did you get involved? How did you start? And so some of it does come as timely advice, and other things is just trying to explore options and figure out what that next step is for them, based off of the trajectory that they're trying to, cast.
Something I've found so remarkable about coaching is the way in which it fills this role. It's sort of like it's a role that I think has needed to be filled for a long time, and that you have strategies, you have a framework, you have an approach, you have you're drawing from all of your own personal history, everything that you've learned. And so you have this sort of this system, this standard, these core principles that you apply to all of your coaching. And it is unique to the needs of the person you're coaching in that moment, what they need, when they need it, how they need it. And you're able to identify. That's why the one-to-one is so powerful when it comes to coaching. It's like you can really immerse with someone and tell them and show them and guide them to what they need in that moment that they need it. And I love how adaptable and flexible good coaching is.
Yeah. And some of my, you mentioned models. So some of my favorite models are the GROW model, right? I use that. I use the 7 coaching questions as a structure, to establish your coaching agreement and move people forward. I even teach a lot of these managers and first line supervisors, the 7 questions, that generally are pretty much standardized across the board. And once they figure that out, the conversations just go completely different. And I'm like, okay, well, now you can do my job. So my problem solved. So.
I love how joyously and enthusiastically coaches make themselves obsolete. Not obsolete, but like basically coach themselves out of that job, because that's the whole goal. It's like, I'm here to help you now so that you can get what you need for yourself down the road.
One of the first books I read was assigned to us when I was doing my master's program. It was Christian coaching, right? Because I was attending a Christian university, and one of the very first things the guy said in there is that your responsibility is to coach yourself out of a job. You're not to keep that person around forever, but there should be a start and an end date. And if not, it's the start of a problem and the end of the solution, and have a very clear idea of what that end looks like, so that when the relationship is over, because it makes it a lot easier to end. And if you did your job well, you'll probably get some referrals. So
that's right.
So you don't have to worry about coaching yourself out of a job, because they will refer other people to you. And they'll probably have other things that come up later on. So I love what you said there, because I think that for most of the part, or for most purposes, most of the, we call them maybe gurus in the coaching world, that's what they believe, at least the good ones, they believe that you should try to coach yourself out of a job. So,
yeah, service begets service, kindness begets kindness. It's just, it's the way of the world. And the more I find, the more that I trust that, the better my life and the lives of everyone around me is. And I know it sounds simple, and that's because I think it is. I think it is just that simple. Of course, there's plenty of other things that go around that, but it really comes down to that. And quite frankly, I love it. I fall in love with it every day, But then I can wax on and on about that for probably too long. But I want to get to, before we go, I want to make sure we have a chance to talk about what might be coming up for you in the next the year to come. I know we're already fairly deep into 2022. I'm having trouble understanding that it's already almost the end of April, or it seems like it's coming up soon. So what's coming up for you the rest of the year, maybe the next 12, 18 months or so, that you're excited about in your coaching practice?
Yeah, so I just signed on with an organization called Catalyzer. So I'm going to go out and going to go do a lot of coaching and training with them, and be a part of their team for a little while. Nice. Another thing that we are looking at over the next few months is getting into the summer is starting to throw ourselves out there a little bit more to do some speaking engagements and to really turn the gas up on this fatherless conversation that I want to be having. And that's the part of that process is transitioning the podcast over a little bit too, to start focusing more in on that conversation, not so much true success as far as, what I have been doing as far as a corporate sense, finding that intrinsic motivation, but, really we're kind of rebranding and converting a little bit, and spending more of our time and resources focused on solving that problem. And so you'll probably see me out there doing that a lot more. And so that's what we're doing. And it is the fatherless challenges that really is near and dear to our heart, and where we're putting a lot of resources, not only time, energy, but also, funding some of that. So we give some pretty hefty, proceeds based off of what I do as far as coaching goes back to organizations that support fatherless kids. So that's what you'll see.
I love it. I love the work. And I also love that I know it's been a challenging couple of years for a lot of us, and it's so nice to be able to, in ways that are safe and in ways that are right, to be able just to get back with people and in front of people, in a way. Like, I love how, and you as a podcaster especially, you understand how difficult, but not difficult, different the skill set is to connect with people via these digital means that we have. It's really become something like, obviously at first, I think a lot of us that I think I definitely shared this, had some trepidation about being able to genuinely connect with people purely through like social media or purely through, Zoom calls or just the digital realm. And I find that not only have I grown more receptive to that kind of connection via this sort of digital platform, but I've also gotten better at projecting myself through and making those kinds of connections that are actually meaningful and actually matter. And I'm impressed with how the technology's developed, but I'm more impressed with how human beings have developed in the last couple of years.
We've gotten a lot better through this process. So, and I do appreciate that. I've met, and it's funny I'm a part of a Toastmasters organization, and because we had to go digital, I have met so many more people across the world at this point than I ever truly imagined. And we all had that social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. I mean, that was just a aspect, but once, we opened up this digital platform to video conferencing and doing meetings, and everybody figuring out how to do the hybrid version for those in person and those who can't be, and being really, really inclusive to others and based off of their circumstances and stuff, and that not being able to be there. I've seen a lot more activity and presence, from people in other organizations too, because now they can wire in from their home, and it gives them an opportunity to just really develop themselves, and get out of their comfort zone a little bit too. While they're in the comfort of their home, they can still participate. So
we live in exciting and powerful times, even understanding all the other things that are going on in the world. It's hard not to be, at least sometimes, very optimistic and very enthusiastic about what we've learned, what we've become, and what we're becoming. It's just exciting.
And I noticed that with coaching too. Coaching is one of those things where it was really hard to get people to, one-on-one, right, in person.
Yeah.
But now they can I can just do a Zoom call, or I can just do a telephone call, or I can do, just audio only. And I'm just, hey, whatever you're comfortable with, I'm okay with that too. So, it's and you don't have the transition, so you can maximize your time better. I mean, there's so many positives that I can see, and the reason why I wanted to do this anyway, because I had more flexibility with my time, and I got 5 kids, so I got a lot of responsibility.
Oh, before I just looking at the clock, and I realized we've already been talking for a while now. Before we go, where can people hear more from you, find out more about you, connect with you? Website? Do you have a preferred social media where you like to do a lot of your back and forth when you're first meeting somebody? Basically, where can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah, I spend the majority of my time on LinkedIn. It's probably one of the only social media channels that I have. I mean, I do have Instagram and some Pinterest stuff, but mostly that's for my own personal use. But I spend most of my time on LinkedIn, invested in LinkedIn. But the best place to go is to kirbyingles.com, KIRBYINGLES. And so you go there, you can hop on the email list, you can listen to the podcast on there. You can find out, which platforms a podcast on. So because you may have a particular preference, whether it be Apple, Spotify, Google, who knows, but it's out there. So you'll get the options to do all that. So, and then any of the past shows I've been on as a guest, you'll find links to all those too as well. So we like to showcase that and our appearances and even promote you. So
well, thank you. But more than that, thank you for talking with me today. This has been and I just had a great, I kind of have this smile on my face. I keep trying to wipe it off because I not wipe it off, but like I feel like I'm grinning like an idiot. It's been fantastic to talk to you. I'm so excited by what you're doing and how you're going about doing it. This has been a great conversation. Just thank you. I'm grateful.
Oh, you're very welcome. And it's been a pleasure.
Awesome. And to the audience, find Kirby, find out more about what he's up to, connect with him on LinkedIn, have a conversation. As you could tell, he is excellent to talk to, which makes sense for a coach. So thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.